Hello everyone, nubkeks here, welcome back to Nub Raids, and in today's video, we're mostly going to focus on a bit of a deep dive into my opinion on, I don't know, SAPHGATE? What do we call it? The big controversy. Saph, he's getting so much hate right now. He put out yesterday a video on why Vaultkeeper Wixwell shield, how it works, is bad, and the lashback against this is absolutely insane. We are going to be talking about that. First of all, before we dive in, I give you my take on the whole situation. Interesting thing. This was just posted an hour ago by the official raid Twitter, right? The people of Teleria have long called upon light, dark, war, and chaos as they vie for the heritage of the original Church of Lumaya. Oh my god, the lore. But these groups are not the only ones who lay claim to the powers of divinity. If you could create a blessing, what would it be? So I am very much wondering if we are going to get, they've been hinting towards it, an update to the blessings, a new divinity coming soon. And this is the image that they shared. Now, I actually did this. This was 3 weeks ago. This video did very badly for me. This was back when I had a longer beard. What do we think, by the way? We've got the man bun. Actually, it's slightly... I've got a chunk here that's not quite in correctly. That looks like a disaster. But what do we think about longer beard versus shorter beard? What's the better look? What's the better look? I don't know. But anyway, this was 3 weeks ago. But in this video, I gave my thoughts. This was actually following on from a video I did with Saph, actually, where we broke down how the blessings are right now. These are my suggestions on what to change, but I actually came up with the whole fifth divinity in that video. Mine, and this is my answer to this. Now, number one, look at this. This is green. I put it. Oh, I'm a genius. I put it as nature. You can watch this video for the whole context and everything going on, but these are what I did. Quick breakdown. Sharp, rare blessings, sharp claws, ignore resistance, thick hide, ignore accuracy, mind blown, the comparison, the two sides of the same coin. Nup, you're a genius. For the epic blessings, entangling roots, chance to debuff attackers. I figure this would be something like Krisk or Valkanan as a good one, right? Where whenever you're hit, it's got a chance to place like any random debuff or anything like that. That could be quite fun. Wellspring, chance to heal allies when they take damage. You know, a blessing that actually just helps you heal up your team. That could be quite fun as well. Building, let's say, a Hydra comp with no healers and using the blessing. That could be fun. Then for the legendary ones, pack tactics, a chance, probably a small chance to do an ally attack. So a sort of generic damage dealing option that scales well with, you know, team size, or, you know, it's quite random, but has a big effect when it procs. And then adaptation. Improve the effectiveness of buffs and decrease debuffs. So, like, I don't know. You could have either a mix of those, but be like, my increased attack buff, instead of giving me 60% attack, I don't know, maybe it gives 70% or something. Be kind of small, but consistent, and just about maxing out your stats. I didn't give you any details on how to balance these exactly, but just conceptually for blessings. I don't know. Let me know what you think, but that's my submission. I've already done it. In fact, I'm 3 weeks ahead of schedule. Look at me go. Right, let's talk about poor old Saph. He's in the firing line. We've got this one comment from a guy, judging by his profile picture, he looks like he's a doll in a wax museum. It's very disturbing. Please fire Saph. That dude straight up sucks. He's trying to get Wix nerfed since it helps non-whales compete with him. Saph is awful. Poor old Saph. We've got 0 upvotes down this one. Oh my god. Poor old Saph. Like, poor Saph. He's come in. He has committed the ultimate crime. Like, we think about this, you know, Saph, he's been making content for ages, arguably the best even channel on the game. And certainly he's very unique in terms of breaking down how mechanics actually work, right? The secret patch notes. He's obviously done massive amounts of work on hellhades.com, on the website itself, the optimizer, all this sort of stuff, you know, providing probably more for the community than any other person in the space. Arguably so. Arguably, I mean, like, some of the other guys are up there, like Hades, etc., and Ash are up there as well. But I mean, Saph has done so much for the raid community. Like, just eclipses 99.99% of the rest of us what he has done. He has committed, though, the ultimate crime. What is he? Has he tried to assassinate the king or something? No. Saph, can we believe it, guys? He has put out an opinion that people don't like. Oh shit. Oh my. How could he? How could he have done an opinion about the game that people don't like? Forget all the good he's done. Fire him immediately. I mean, award. If this sums up, if anything was to sum up 2024 and the way the world is going, you get the award. This guy, you get the award, right? Oh my god, he's hurt his feelings. Saph has an opinion that does not directly match someone else's opinion. The ultimate crime. He should receive the ultimate punishments for this. Outrageous behavior. Let's give my opinion. What do I actually think about this? Well, it's interesting. So we're going to break it down. In fact, I actually forgot. Hang on. I meant to add in a couple of things here. That actually, no, let me put it in here. Oh, little spoiler. This is what is it a problem in Demon Lord? Is it a problem in Hydra? And then, is it a problem in Hydra Clash? ? And we're going to break this down. And actually, my quick thoughts, let me spoil it for you right now. I don't think it's a problem in Demon Lord. In fact, I don't think it's a problem in Hydra, but I do think it's a problem in Hydra Clash. And we're going to, again, spoiler, Hydra Clash is the problem. We'll come to that in a second. But let's look at this. So, number one, this is the broad thing. Wixwell, is the shield growth that Wixwell does a problem? And I actually totally agree with Saph on this point. I think he's bang on, like in terms of objective game design, right? Shield growth in general, what is better, percentage growth or flat growth? And that's the core of Saph's argument. And he's absolutely correct, right? So, I mean, I've done my own example, a very simple one. But with the percentage growth, with a base shield of 20 and a 10% growth, right, we're growing a small bit every time. These are just sort of 10 steps, right? So we can see for the first 10% growth, we gain 2 points. Now, when we go a bit further on, at this point, we're gaining actually slightly over 4.3 points at this point. So, the growth is sort of snowballs. It just gets stronger and stronger. Now, a comparison would be, let's say, a simple example of I think what would be objectively about, like, if we could go back in time and design Wixwell, I think a better, and I'll talk about why it's better, would be flat growth. So I said, well, imagine he does a base shield of 20. Well, let's say if you had 10 buffs, he'd basically add on that shield again. So if you had 5 buffs, he'd give you half the initial shield as flat growth. So with flat growth, again, here it'd start at 20 and you'd be going up. So you can see with flat growth, it's having a big impact right from the start. It does keep scaling up. It's more useful way sooner, right, with 10% growth. Going from 20 to 22 does almost nothing. With a flat 10, going from 20 to 30 is a big impact. But obviously, if you apply these, when you extrapolate it to a really, really, really long fight, so I've given you 10 steps here. If we go to 100 steps, obviously, by the time we get to 100 steps, the percentage growth will really have snowballed and really outstripped it. Now, let's talk about why is this bad? And the thing for this for me is, let's say, look at this, percentage growth. Where is that good? Because you need so long for it to ramp up. Useless in arena, pretty much useless in dungeons, Doom Tower bosses, faction wars, basically everywhere in the game. The only place where percentage growth has the time to be in any way useful are the clan bosses, Demon Lord and Hydra. That's it, and it's useless everywhere else. Whereas flat growth, this is why it's better. That is useful everywhere, right? So again, I think a lot of people are very upset by this idea that flat growth would make Wixwell terrible for clan boss. That's absolutely not true. I mean, we've got the direct example of Brogni. Brogni does flat growth, right? It's based on the damage. So, right, by 30% of the damage inflicted. So let's say Demon Lord clan boss, for example. Let's assume you've got decreased defense and weaken on the boss. Brogni will grow it by the same amount basically every single time. I mean, presuming he's got 100% crit rate. I guess it would vary slightly with Helm Smasher procs, but you've got two flat growth states, either the non-Helm Smasher or the Helm Smasher. But he's growing it by the same amount every time. And that's extremely good. So again, to reiterate, flat growth, useful everywhere. It's still fantastic depending on how it's tuned, of course. But it's still fantastic for Demon Lord, could still be fantastic for Hydra, whereas percentage growth is literally useless in most areas of the game. And that's it. I have to agree with Saph on that 100%. I've said it before myself as well. I think having some sort of flat growth is way better design, right? It is just flat better design. This percentage growth is so limited, and it does lean more into these cheese type comps as opposed to being something that's generally useful. Yeah, I think that's really important to point out. But again, if we went back in time and redesigned Wixwell for flat growth here, guess what? He'd still be insane for Demon Lord. It's not a problem, right? Let's jump on to this one. Here's another big thing which has come up. I think that came up a lot in the comment section, right? Is people say, leave him alone. Like, well, leave him alone. There's no Wixwell problem. I think the reason for this is mostly Demon Lord. It's sort of my impression that it's helping people clear Demon Lord much easier than they would have cleared it before. Like, here's a great example. This is an Ultra Nightmare going the full turn limit, and this is actually with a Brogni as well, yeah? Brogni as well, and Geomancer, but he's able to survive just about, it looks like. Actually, I don't know, does the shield disappear at the end? They've got no shields. I guess all their buffs are gone at the end. I guess the shields just disappear at the end with the final screen, but made it all the way to the end and done almost, 900 million damage on Ultra Nightmare Demon Lord. Here's the thing. Here's the question, though. Is making Demon Lord easy bad? And tying into that, is this really any different from unkillable type teams like Emic or Helicath, right? I did a video reacting to WizD. I've watched a bunch of his videos since then. He's really great content creator, smaller content creator. I recommend you check out this video and check out his stuff. But he predicted this Wixwell thing, that Wixwell could be a really good, he predicted that there would be a really strong clan boss champion coming soon, because we have historically had champions like Brogni, Helicath, Emic, etc. regularly that make Demon Lord basically super easy, right? They're really well designed for that. For me, I have absolutely no problem with making Demon Lord easy, and these champs are great. Again, I think the flat growth style of Brogni is better balanced, but fundamentally, a champion that gives the player base quite easy access to smashing out Demon Lord, and even, Brogni and Emic, they opened up a whole ton of, and Wixwell as well, opens up a ton of bosses, because they're such a strong support for keeping you alive. Helicath as well. I don't have any problem with that as well, and I don't really see a fundamental difference. I genuinely don't. So I don't have a problem with that at all. So we come back here, and for Demon Lord, for me, is Wixwell a problem for Demon Lord? And this is where the logic of this is interesting, right? No, I don't think he's a problem for Demon Lord. No problem with that at all. In fact, it should be our expectation to regularly see champs that help with this. Now for Hydra, obviously it's not really that cheesy for Demon Lord. It's quite functional. For Hydra, it's quite cheesy the way it works. It's much more cheese, which is, you've got the Yannicka version. You build up a huge shield, let it get stolen and spread, and then Yannicka can explode it. Or then you've got the Ironclad plus... So let me show this to you in game so you guys get the idea. So the idea is, with the Hydra fight, you let it run for ages, build up a huge shield. It gets stolen and spread around by Mischief. Then Yannicka can remove the shield and do 15% of the damage. Now that's capped, but it's a really easy way to do like about 1 billion damage on Hydra. The other option is you bring in Aislinn, right? Build up a massive shield. Then he will remove all shields from all allies and heal all allies by the total value of all shields. So use him to... He doesn't hit that hard. He has actually a damage cap, right? The damage he does cannot exceed 1,000 of his defense, so he just doesn't hit that hard. But the heal is massive. Then you put him in with Ironclad, yeah? And with Ironclad, there he is. Ironclad does damage equal to 50% to all enemies of any surplus heal that he receives. So this will do massive, huge, again, I don't actually know how much damage this can do, but massive damage to the Hydra. So these are obviously, again, I say these are very obviously cheese tactics. And this is also something to mention. I feel like cheese is perhaps a baggage term, where I think people have this massive negative reaction to calling something cheese. I think because of people get worried about the implication that it's wrong, or sort of morality gets tied into it and whatnot. Leave that baggage aside, guys. Like, I'm not saying that it's wrong or not. I'm saying that it's cheesy. As this is clearly a very, we can phrase it in a really positive way, right? It's clearly a super creative, unique strategy. And like the devs never expected that to be a thing to do. It's quite a cool creative thing. It is cheese. It's not an intended way when they design the boss. It's like this absolutely bizarre way to work around it. And in fact, perhaps unkillable teams like Helicath and, Maneater from back in the day, arguably those were cheesy teams as well, right? They are not intended. And it's like, oh, that's really creative. And it's not necessarily a problem, right? But it is clearly cheesy, right? It is. But here's the thing. Do I think, though, that it's a problem for Hydra? I don't think that this is a problem for Hydra. Not really. But is it a problem for Hydra Clash? I think yes. Yes, it is, right? Here's why Hydra Clash is the problem. And let's use Trunda as another example. Trunda is obviously, again, it's obviously a cheese team. It certainly obviously is. But Trunda, again, similar logic here. It's not a problem for Hydra, but it's a problem for Hydra Clash. So here's why, right? Hydra Clash is the problem. Hydra Clash, it doesn't fully remove, but it limits your choice over whether to use the cheese or not, because the pressure to compete is the best option. So let's say, for example, for Demon Lord, like let's say if we consider unkillable teams cheese teams, there's not necessarily a problem though. It's a cheesy, even Godseeker and Eerie for Sand Devil. It's cheese, but it's not necessarily a problem. It's an effective way to take on the content. You've got the choice, right? I know, for example, YST doesn't use unkillable teams for Demon Lord. Why not? Because he thinks that they're kind of cheesy and he prefers to use non-unkillable teams. And they're harder to build, but it's not a big problem, right? So long as you're getting, you can use the cheese comp first of all, get your max chest, and then you could switch to something else. You can go, okay, well, I've got my max chest. That's great. Then eventually, maybe one day you build like a super tanky composition. You absolutely slam through. You're like, okay, cool. I've gone for a non-unkillable team. That's fine. Or like with Sand Devil. Sand Devil's a great example because the cheese team of Godseeker is very much incentivized by terrible boss design. This is very much a Plarium created problem where how do you do the boss properly with like sleep and revive on death and all that sort of stuff? It's very difficult to do this properly with a whole team using sleep. Much easier to use Blizzard to solo it or Godseeker to duo it, right? To use basically a cheese strategy because the boss is awful design, awful. But again, you could beat it with that cheese design and then swap over. Not really a problem, right? Because it's actually quite easy as well to, so long, again, for Hydra, right? Bringing in like an Emic team or a Wixwell team or something to get your top Hydra chest, like who cares, really? The more people that get the high chests in Demon Lord and Hydra, the better. Fantastic. More rewards for more people. Again, in my opinion, getting these chests, it shouldn't be a big deal. Right? It's not a big deal. In fact, getting the chest should be pretty easy. Hydra Clash, though, it becomes a problem because you've got this pressure to compete. So when these cheesy options become the best, it starts to dominate and push out the regular thing. So I think it's nice for Demon Lord. You can come in and go like, oh, if I don't want to do an unkillable team, it's up to me. I can do a non-unkillable team if I want to. Up chest, whatever, doesn't matter. If that's my preference, that's okay. But when it becomes a competitive thing with competing with other players and you've got that social pressure of not letting down your clan, the only way you can, there's a lot of pressure to actually use the cheese, and that becomes unfortunate. I think with Trunda, for example, with Hydra, I think it's only Hydra Clash that makes it bad, right? Even right now, if you look at the leaderboards, right, like the official leaderboard Discord, let me get that up. Okay, so we're over here on the Raid Shadow Legends leaderboards Discord. Yeah, but for that, like they've split it up. They've got these different kind of leaderboards, right? This is my point again, coming back. Players, it's obvious that these are cheese compositions, right? It's obvious. I think the only real reason to dispute whether or not they're cheese is because you're upset or worried about something being taken away from you. But like again, leave that morality aside and just like it is what it is, and it's not a problem, and then it's easier. So they have, for example, a leaderboard for a standard nightmare run, but then they've got Trunda. They've got their Trunda leaderboards as well, which is in the billions instead of millions, right? And here's the thing, again, to reiterate, although it's cheese, both types are interesting. It's really interesting. And it's a great team, and it can be fun to build to see how much damage can I do at Trunda. That's cool. Now, obviously, you can't compete against Trunda with other stuff, but those teams are still really interesting. And it's a cool achievement to build them up, and it's cool to see. So again, it's great to see. If we think about it in terms of the normal Hydra chest, right? Like to top chest Nightmare Hydra, you need, what is it? 36.6 million. Okay. We're looking at 5 billion. Or not like 5 billion versus 36 million. We're way past that. If we look at Trunda, we're up at 91 billion. We're way past it. It's irrelevant in terms of getting your chest. Again, if Hydra Clash didn't exist and there's no pressure to compete against other players, it's competing for fun for the leaderboard, and players are sensible enough to go, yeah, cool. Here's a Trunda team leaderboard. That's awesome. Here's a budget Trunda team leaderboard. I don't know what this is with no Yumikos. Okay, how much can you do with no Yumikos? Cool. Let's do that. They've made that. There's a Yannicka leaderboard, which is I like that actually. Yoinkika. That's a great one. I love that. That's so clever. That's a cool team as well. Let's see what the best we can do at that is. Cool, right? Again, these are players. People naturally understand, I think, and when you leave aside all of the prejudices and stuff here, I think you can understand that all of these teams are interesting and the records are cool. With just default Hydra, it's just like, awesome. Here's a bunch of cool teams, and there's relevance to all types. So for someone that gets a Trunda, here you go. Here's how you build like a budget Trunda team. Get your Hydra chest and get a really cool high score and have fun doing it. You don't have Trunda? Here's a regular team to build. Get your chest. Again, push for a high score. Have fun doing it. Hydra Clash is what is making it bad, right? Because in Hydra Clash, now it comes in, and a game mode that should be kind of fun about min-maxing your teams and doing the most that you can now ends up in a situation where it's not, it's not, how much can a normal person do, right? Like, look at like 3 billion damage on Hydra. Like, it's not an amazing team. These are decent teams doing decent damage. This Trunda, he's obviously cancelled fairly, well, actually, this Trunda team is still doing a ton of damage, 2 billion damage, But like, these are normal teams doing really well. That's cool. But you come into Hydra Clash, and then you've got stuff like this, right? Where one person out damages a whole clan. And that puts a lot of pressure, like I said. Suddenly you don't have any choice. Suddenly, like, having fun exploring all types of records is not something you can really do because you have to compete. You really want to use the best option. You don't have Trunda, kick you out of the clan because you're holding us back, potentially, right? That's the way that some of these clans do, right? If you're not going to, in the top, it's not only a top clan problem, really, but, it is there. So that's a bit of a problem, right? It's just frustrating. People come in and you get totally wiped out. If Hydra Clash didn't exist, this wouldn't be a big problem. Actually, I've been pretty consistent with Trunda. I will say that. Or like, again, Corpulent Cadaver. That's a great example. Corpulent Cadaver existed for ages in Demon Lord. Nobody cared. It was just like, you know what, man? These Corpulent Cadavers smashing Demon Lord clan boss, that's just really cool, right? Because who cares, right? Genuinely, who cares? Demon Lord's not a problem. Cadaver became a problem because of Clash. Clash made it a problem. Again, it would have been just a cool option. It wasn't discovered until Clash, of course, but it would have been a cool option for Hydra just to get your one keys, because, it's difficult to build. Pretty difficult team to build, but an interesting option to try get your chest for Hydra. Again, I don't think particularly a problem at all. Clash is what made it a problem. Make that very clear. It's because of Clash that it is a problem. So for me, I do feel like with Wixwell, it's a somewhat similar thing for sure. It's not a problem for me for Demon Lord or Hydra, but it is a concern for Clash. So whether you change Clash, I think nerfing Wixwell, by the way, to come back to that general thing, nerfing Wixwell or that's a bit of a problem as well, because certainly if that was to affect Demon Lord, that would suck. Or if you were to make it non-viable for people to get their max key, that would kind of suck. But So I think that if they were to change Wixwell and to make either Demon Lord or Hydra like non-viable, I think that would suck. I wouldn't have a big problem if they made the Wixwell stuff non-viable for Hydra Clash. In fact, I'd say that's actually better for the game, for fair competition between everyone. I think similarly with Trunda. Again, no problem with these. But, you know, when something starts breaking Clash, yeah, Clash creates a lot of problems. It creates some good stuff, but it creates a lot of problems, but that's really where all the problem lies. Yeah, Wixwell's a tricky one, right? Because it's a fusion. People have done it. To nerf the champion, that gets messy quick, doesn't it? You end up with some people that are quite upset, to put it bluntly. So I don't know what Plarium will do. I wouldn't be shocked if they nerfed it, if they did something to change the shield. Like it is to go back to Saph. It's a sensible change because it's better design. Saph is absolutely right. That is a better, more logical design that fits the game better. But I would also not be too worried. Again, to go back to Brogni, I think he'd still be absolutely insane for Demon Lord, right? Like the champion is still busted for Demon Lord, so don't worry too much. Don't worry too much. But yeah, that's sort of some of my thoughts on this, guys. Yeah, it's interesting, isn't it? Let me know what you think about it. But yeah, it's funny. By creating the competition of Clash, you make what are interesting and unique teams and the different creativity you can have in building those. And like, oh, again, going back to the leaderboards, right? It's really cool to have all of these different types of leaderboards and to see what people can do with the champions. And then you can build stuff off the champs you have. And it's just a really fun expression of team building. But when you put in the competition of Clash, that's when it starts to suck. Yeah, it's really, I mean, Clash. Well, actually, I probably should mention what's the positive of Clash is that it's a reason to, again, the reason why Clash is important is because, you know, like for me, I'll say Demon Lord, right? I could build a better Demon Lord team, but I just don't care because there's no reason to. The good thing about Clash as sort of the big end game content is it means that, you know, getting better champions for Hydra and getting a big record actually has an impact. I think that's cool. It gives you something to do in PvE endgame, which otherwise wouldn't be there. And it motivates you to build a lot of champions. Like, would people really care about Nergigante Archer or Grand Oak Podrick, etc. if these weren't insane Hydra champions? You might still be somewhat interested. But, like, we're so far beyond the max chest here at this point that, you know, it really is about pushing the high scores. And that's somewhat interesting on its own, but it's not for everyone. Clash, the good thing about Clash is that it gives you rewards for doing that in game, which is a positive. But then it also is coming with a lot of these negatives as well. I mean, if they ever did a Demon Lord Clash in the future, again, that could be kind of fun, right? It's a kind of fun idea. You know, be like, ooh, okay, I'll do an event to see what's the most I can do in Demon Lord, and I'll get some nice rewards for it. That's a fun idea. But then it also brings in a whole lot of baggage in terms of, especially if it's player versus player, like pay to win advantages, cheese comps advantages, all that sort of stuff. Yeah, it becomes messy. So yeah, look, I think that's nearly all that really needs to be. I've done a lot of this in detail. I think this is ridiculous. I feel bad for Saph for sure for this. I have zero problem. You know what? Like, here's the thing. Absolute worst case scenario, guys. If you think Saph is wrong, then Saph is wrong. So I'm just checking. The sky's not falling down. Holy shit. The sky's not falling down. The world is fine. The world will go on. You're going to be okay. You know, take a deep breath. Let it out again. Everything's going to be fine. You don't need to stress. Doesn't matter what I think or anyone else thinks. It's going to be fine. Good job. Okay. Well, there we go, guys. There's some thoughts on that. Thank you for watching. Let me know what I'm curious. Predict what will Plarium do about all of this? I wonder. I'll see y'all next time. Goodbye.